Okay.
And welcome to Drop the Hammer. It is the Hammer podcast for the Hudson Valley Hammers. I am Matt Lawrence. I'm here with Daryl Sullivan. Daryl, the father of Tyler Adams, the captain of the United States team, our United States soccer team, who made it out of the preliminary round. Also joined by Ed Diller. Ed is our producer. This is the first of what we hope is many for the Hudson Valley Hammers, started 2 years ago. And Daryl, welcome. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
No, awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
So Daryl, this was an idea that actually came to fruition. We've had ideas of teams in the past trying to get players involved in multiple teams throughout the Hudson Valley, and this one actually got put on paper and was brought to fruition 2 years ago. Can you walk us through what the Hudson Valley Hammers, how it started, and then walk us through how it's gone for the last 2 years and where you see this going for the club?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of two stories, I guess we could say here. The part one of the story is, myself, Eddie Evans, and Ray Bramwell. We've always discussed about doing something regarding like a semi-pro type team. Jay Anthony, who was involved in discussions, and some other local people as well. And we were just trying to really put a spotlight on the Hudson Valley, and just try to um, get to see these players and try to push these. We have a really, really good history of players on both sides of the river in Hudson Valley, and we feel like we weren't getting the proper exposure for the boys, and we needed another outlet to be able to get this done. So this kind of how that came to fruition. Is just many years of discussing it, and then to piggyback on the part two, and then Tyler comes in, gets involved, and Tyler's obviously a Hudson Valley, grew up in the Hudson Valley, and we obviously know the rest of it, right? Went to Red Bulls, um, and then went,
At what
obviously
age,
on
Daryl?
to Germany. He went to Red Bulls in seventh grade, end of seventh grade, going to eighth grade. He went to the academy system, and then from there, was recognized immediately by the U.S. National Team Youth Scouts, and the rest is history. So in saying that, talking to Tyler about a lot of this stuff and going on, he always felt that it was difficult to be seen outside of here. And not only that, though, is one of the bigger problems that we have is the whole pay to play structure. The idea of having to pay to play. And I remember watching Tyler play when his mother and I first started getting together, and I saw him on a team where he only played the first half. And I was asking him, like, why is he only playing the first half? I don't understand this. The response was, well, we need to make everyone happy on this team because everyone's paying. So, how far can you go with that? If everyone's paying,
Yeah,
you're
we
trying to make
know we
everyone
know that
happy.
never works in sports. Never works in sports.
Yeah. So, the roster was big, and I'm like, listen, it's time for him to leave that. At the time we had, the Club Soccer Plus Academy, had him come over and play age appropriate at this time because he's always playing up, because I thought it was important for him to, be a leader, and and to just kind of take charge of things, and then he did. And in the meantime, we went down to the trial to Red Bull and went there. So looking at that history, the history of this area, the people that we have involved, you know it just came together, and kind of here we are. We first started out in UPSL, had a very successful year. We lost to the national champs, and there's the national champs in the first year, and then we wanted to make another jump. We want to make another jump, and we made a really big jump into USL 2, and we had an extremely successful season as well. And we're hoping just to piggyback off all of this and take it to the next step each year.
So, Daryl, your history in the game of soccer, I know you were a coach. How far do you go back?
Well, I go back as a player. I graduated from John Jay High School. I played in college. I was a Division 3 player. If I had a little better grades, I might have been able to get a little bit further. But that was kind of where I was sitting at. And from there, I had opportunities to play over in Scotland a little bit at a certain age. But my mindset really wasn't in it. And after playing, I kind of had a little loss, love for the game, and then I got it back when I became a young coach. And in taking that and coaching and just having the love for the game just came back into me, and I feel like that's what best suit me, especially at that time, and then going up, and then coaching local club teams, high school teams, boys and girls, We were state Final Four 3 times at Ketchum High School. I coached that John Jay, the girls, and we won back-to-back state titles there. And then Eddie and I coached the spa team that won the state title. Soccer plus Cabbage won the state title. So there's been, a lot of success, and that success has come from this area. These players. And I've countless of players that I've coached who went pro. Countless players have been Division I, Division II, Division III, and that's all from the Hudson Valley. And I felt like that we can get these players that exposure and get out there. Maybe something can happen for them and they can get that opportunity. And that's kind of where we were at with Tyler and what Tyler wanted to do as well.
So growing up with Tyler didn't get the exposure here. So I imagine it was hours in the car back and forth, trekking him to practices and getting him that exposure that obviously now led him to be the captain of the United States team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Between taking him down to Jersey, his brother Dylan down to Jersey, back and forth, we were starting in Newark, and you know how Newark traffic could be. That could be 2+ hours, going one way. And that was, 4 days a week. And then there was a game on the weekends. So the commitment came from all of us. We had 2 other standout athletes as well in the family, one playing football, one playing high school soccer and really high level travel. So there was 4 in there, and it was, kind of like a dance every day of what we're going to do and where we're going to go. And, we just needed to kind of put it together, and we were fortunate to come off on the good side with all that.
So you have other sons who are playing sports actively right now, and I know one played for the Hammers this year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Dylan played for the Hammers this year. He got hurt right in the preseason a little bit, so that kind of took him off. But he plays at Clemson. He's graduating December, and we're trying to figure out right now what he's going to do. And then another son who played high school soccer, very successful career, sectional. They were sectional champ, and then another son who played Division I football at Marist, and Robert Morris, who's graduating as well. So at least for me, the driving is going to be taken down a little bit to go watch some sports. So I'm okay about that.
So will Dylan come back this year to play with the Hammers?
That depends. He does have some trials he's on right now. He's gotten a lot of interest from some clubs, and we're kind of debating what he's going to do. Will he take his 5th year and get a master's degree? He's trying to figure that out, or will he start his next step in his soccer career?
All right. So Daryl, we talked about Eddie Evans. Eddie Evans was your coach, right? And I understand there's going to be a little transition this year. We talked about Ray Bramall. Ray Bramall, everyone knows Ray in the Hudson Valley as far as soccer goes, and Ray's a great general manager. But if I'm a kid in the Hudson Valley, I feel I'm talented, and I feel like I want to go try out. I know there's been one tryout, but take me through what it's going to be to make the Hammers and then go beyond, because there aren't many people in the Hudson Valley that know that path, and you and your wife live it. You've seen your children, obviously your first Tyler, go all the way through, and now captain on the men's team. Tell a high school student or a college student what they really need to do to get to that next level.
Yeah, it's going to take an awful lot. One of the things that that Tyler, had to do was, he gave up a lot. We tried to make that the best he could as far as keeping things in, making sure he goes to his high school prom, making sure he went to a high school dance, all these things that I think are very important, especially for an adolescent to do, to have that social aspect. But the commitment was very difficult. There was plenty of parties that he couldn't go to. There's many nights, many movie nights, with friends, with buddies. So number one, it takes a really big commitment from the player as well as the family to do that, because here we are in a situation where we had to go to Jersey, and obviously that's kind of still the situation, right? If you really want to make it NYCFC, New York Red Bulls, you have to do that. So that's that commitment. But it also, it also takes a little bit of luck, a little bit of good timing. It takes, going the right path, and being fortunate for that path. Not everyone has the path to play academy, and not everyone has the path to go Division I college, Division II, Division III. It's not all there, but all of these things coming together for that individual person and what path they choose is going to really end up where they're going to be. But there's going to be bumps along that way. and how they adjust as an individual and as a family will help them get there. So our idea here is to get these young men who are in college who are going to be playing at a much higher level playing for this team than some of their colleges are. We're in the top conference in the country, and you're playing either Division I players or former Division I players who are pros. So you're getting exposure by playing as far as being seen, number one, right, in the spotlight, because you're playing some of the best teams, but you're playing against the best. And that's how you get better. You get better by training with the better players, but as well as playing against the best players. That's what's going to push you. And that's what we're trying to do here. In this area, we have a very, good, young talent, right? We have that, but it's not a lot of talent. So we try to get these kids playing on this team and get them exposure to the Long Island Rough Riders, exposure to all the Jersey teams and Northern Jersey teams where, we played, one of the teams in Jersey and their starting 11 was the ACC guys, you know what I mean? And we kept them 2-1. It was a tight game, and the boys worked hard. And, it was this thing like, wait a minute, we can play with these guys, we can do this, we finished third in the conference, and in the toughest conference, we can play with them, and that's our hope here with the Hudson Valley Hammers.
That's great. Again, Matt Lawrence with Daryl Sullivan, his stepfather of Tyler Adams, our United States captain. Daryl, the biggest thing that people don't realize, and I don't think many do, we had talked on it, you touched about it earlier, about the pay to play. What's the role in the Hammers as far as you don't have to pay? You just have to try out. You have to get selected based on your talent. And then from there, your expenses are paid. Is that correct?
Correct, 100%. We go back to the times we had a club team, and Ray Bramwell and Eddie and I and a couple others, we sit there and we're like, how can we make this a little bit more cost effective for players? What can we do to make it easier for them? Because when you're in Europe, it's you have the big clubs there to come down there, and there's some finances there. They have the academies. There's so many more teams there, and kids can come and play at all levels. Here with the pay to play, we're not hitting everyone. We're not getting everyone that can maybe be that great player. In this country here, we're loaded with basketball athletes, right? Because there's a hoop outside. They can go play. They bring them in. The cost is very low for everyone there. But look at us, worldwide in basketball, right? There's not that huge pay to play there like it is everywhere else, So you have these teams. So what we try to do is a big commitment is try to, we fundraise like crazy, and we're always consistently trying to fundraise, and we're trying to prepare these young men for the next level. Now, some will get an opportunity to play at the next level for free here, right? For free. They're not putting a dime out of their pocket. We have busing for them, the training, the coaches. We have meals for them. We have, Nike clothing for them that they get. All of these things come for nothing for them. Absolutely no, not a dime they're spending, and what we're trying to do is to get them exposed. Not only that, though, if they don't happen to make it to the next level, whether it's pro, maybe they can take that commitment of being a coach. Maybe they can make a connection with a fan that can help them maybe in their major for them to get a job down the line. And hopefully them doing that, they can appreciate what the Hammers has done for them, and they can give back to the Hammers one day. They can give back to the local community. They can give back to these young kids to help them get where they need to be and where they want to be.
Tell me how the interaction with the Hudson Valley community has really helped the Hammers as far as sponsors and people getting behind the team, because the team is still in infancy stage. It's only 2 years old, and again, that first year was basically a trial, and now we've gotten to the next level where we're playing the big players. So that interaction between the Hudson Valley Hammer players and the community, talk a little more about that, about sponsors and all of that who are allowing us to do this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's an ever-changing thing, regarding sponsors. We had the list up on our Avantis obviously was a very big sponsor of ours. The Anthony Foundation was a very big sponsor of ours. But Nike was a very big sponsor of ours. And there's obviously quite a bit more on there. We had Messineo Painting, a nice local guy who just loves the game and comes out and wants to support these boys. And it's kind of like, another guy who does an awful lot of work for us is Brian Kennedy. He does a lot of stuff for us in getting connections with people. Yourself, very huge as far as helping out. It's kind of like, I always talk about this. It's like a puzzle, right? Everything we do in life is a puzzle. And for the Hammers, our puzzle is everyone who's sitting on here and does the work behind the scenes. And then also the community who helps out and helps fund this, to help these kids do something, and I think the feedback we've gotten so far has been fantastic. We've gotten people at games, that they stay after the games. I can't tell you how many messages I get from moms and dads saying, thank you so much. The players sat and talked to my son. They talked to my daughter. My daughter loves the game. We can't wait to come back again. That's what this is about. It's about that. It's about coming out for a family night, watching the boys play, giving their heart out, representing this area, but then as well as giving back after the game, giving back at clinics that we try to hold, for the local soccer clubs. We have a ton of soccer clubs in this area, and not all of them are high level, not all of them have, great players, but there could be one or two great players there that can maybe one day be here, and we want to help them get there. But I think, we're kind of in the beginning stages, but we want to help their coaching staff. We want to help teach them what they can do for their kids to make them better. Because let's face it, all these clubs around here, the smaller clubs, are based on volunteers. People who are just like we're trying to do here at the Hammers. We're volunteers. We're trying to make things better for everyone. So if we can somehow encompass all of these things to get, these pieces of the puzzle together to get where we want to be, it would be fantastic. And we're doing a great job. It's exhausting. I would like it to be a lot easier if we had a little bit more funding instead of having to go chase it. So we're always looking for that help from donors and just to make this a great opportunity, not only for the young men that are playing, but this entire community. We want to do as much as we possibly can for the Hudson Valley.
And let me ask you something. Some people don't know where the Hudson Valley Hammers practice, where they play, anything like that. So touch on that a little bit, Daryl.
Yeah, we've we were looking at a lot of different sites around in the area, and just trying to encompass this. And there's some rules that we have in the USL2 that prevents us from playing in certain areas around the Hudson Valley. So one of the main things, which was kind of like an old grounds for us as far as going back to our Soccer Plus Academy days, was going to Mount St. Mary. And Mount St. Mary has been absolutely fantastic in helping us and working with us and us working with them to help them get exposure. And I think that's kind of where we're at. We practiced at the Mount last year. We had our games at the Mount. It was just fantastic. I mean, right in the middle of Newburgh, we have the lights, not that far from the river. Just good atmosphere and a really cool setup. And Mount St. Mary has been fantastic for us.
And one of the few places that you can actually sit on the sidewalk, bring your chair, and watch the game. It's not a huge stadium where you have to walk in and get shuffled. You can actually park across the street, bring your chair, sit down, and it's almost theater style seating on the one side.
No, that's a great point. It definitely is theater style seating, and it's a great view. A lot of times I like to watch the game from up there just so I can take a look and see it. Seeing that on field level sometimes is tough, and that sidewalk, boy, that's prime seating right there. To be able to watch that game, and it's just that atmosphere. You have the hill behind the goal. You have the kids playing around by the tennis courts playing soccer, tennis, and we have other activities for the kids, the games to do. And I think what we're trying to do with the Mount is we're both trying to grow, right? We're trying to grow as the Hammers, and the Mount's trying to grow also as the school athletically, and I think it's a good marriage for the both of us to go forward and move forward.
And we had a player from Mount St. Mary actually playing on the Hammers this year.
Yeah. We're always looking for anyone. This is what's important too to go back on that, Matt. I think a lot of people get stuck on the Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, where that's at. Everyone develops differently at each level. Now, obviously, those Division 1 players are playing with top players, and so every day they're getting a little bit better. But these Division 2, Division 3 players are working just as hard, and some of them just maybe they didn't grow as well in high school, they didn't get to that strength, but then all of a sudden they start taking off in college, and next thing you know, that's it. Matt Wine is that player. Matt Wine was the one that put it them out. He was their top player, and he was definitely one of our better players.
Yeah, I remember calling his name out in a goal and telling everybody, how great is it that you're playing for a Hudson Valley Hammers, which is the next level from college. You're playing on your home field and you score a goal in the game in front of your home fans.
Yeah, fantastic, and you could hear them chirping Matt's name, in the crowd, and he was pretty excited, and that was the pride he had too for it. These are some
I
guys
thought
that
they
have
were
played
calling
together
my
since they
name.
were young.
I thought that was
Yeah,
my name they were calling.
that was the other corner. The other corner was calling your name.
So let's jump this one further while we're getting ready to wrap this up. We got a few more, probably about 5-10 more minutes. I got to talk about the 800-pound elephant in the room. How great were these last 2 weeks? Seeing people at the Newburgh Brewery, seeing people at the Academy in Poughkeepsie. I mean, all over the place, watch parties, and they're watching your son.
Yeah, man, it was, simply stated, it was amazing. I saw the best of both worlds. I was fortunate enough to go over there and see the first 2 games against Wales and England. And then I left, after that, reluctantly left, but had to come back to work and handle family business and things like that. And when I got back here, I tried to tell Melissa and Tyler just how special it was back here, and, I always shared the videos with him. I was amazed. I truly was amazed. And, I watched at a bunch of different places, and I remember one of the places, Academy in Poughkeepsie. I was there for the game, unfortunately, that we lost to Netherlands. But after the game was over, and there was hundreds of people inside of this bar, and they were chanting USA, USA. It was pretty special. It was like, wow. And just what's the messages and the notes and just the positive feel that we got from all of these couple of weeks was just amazing, and it was just great to see. And to have Tyler be the captain of that team, and it was just pretty special, and he handled himself so well. He was asked questions off the field,
Oh,
it was
I
tough.
wanted I want to touch on that because let me tell you something. This kid is Captain America because when that reporter from Iran came after him and really was just he was kind of rude the way he asked the question, very pointed. And for your son at 23 years old to be as poised as he was, to talk about education and to talk about multicultural and how it applies in different countries. I mean, that's an answer. I'm 51. That's an answer I couldn't have come up with on the spot. Just
Yeah, I know, on the spot.
he's just
Yeah.
he's an amazing spokesperson, not just for United States soccer, but he's an amazing spokesperson for United States athletes.
Agreed. I think you said it best. When he had texted me saying, prior to going into this, he was like, I don't think I'm going to ask one question about soccer in this interview. So he was kind of prepping himself for it. And then after he finished it, he texted me immediately. I didn't know what had happened at that point, and he said, I had a tough question, but I think I handled it pretty well. I think that it went well. And then I listened to it and I said, buddy, you got to be kidding me, man. You knocked it out of the park, man. It was fantastic. And, he spoke from the heart. And, and I think that's echoed around not just here in the Hudson Valley, but around the entire country about what he has said and how he handled himself. And I thought it was very important to, for people to see that, especially an athlete, to say those words. And then you throw on the top that, he's only 23 years of age. And then throw on top, it was on spot. He didn't have any idea the question was coming, obviously. And he handled it with such class. And I couldn't be more proud.
And that's as I'm proud of him at handling it as a USA athlete to answer another country's controversial questions, to answer like that with such class. But as a mom and dad, to watch your son get put on the spot and not just answer it, but he excelled. I mean, if you're rating this kid out of a 1 to 10, he's off the charts with his answers. He really is. And
Oh,
you could say all you want because he didn't get prepped in any of this. It's that upbringing that you two have brought him along with his brothers and have exposed them to the entire world. So we thank you for that. But I'll tell you what, You had to be beaming that day as your son answers a really tough question.
Yeah, 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 no doubt about it. Listen, I often said, how would we have reacted in that situation with that question? And I think obviously as a parent, we become very protective, right? When you see that, so your immediate reaction is like, "Hey, let's go," and the way that he handled it just was just so calm and cool, and appreciate the kind words, and hats off to him. I mean, he handled it well, and again, we're just super proud.
All right, so moving forward, Hammers complete their first year in the big leagues. We're going to call it. Who got looks out of there? I know Samori had a couple looks, maybe a tryout. Any eyes on some of the Hammers going forward?
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of this stuff is happening right now. All these trials are happening in the month of December. So, when we have, in a couple weeks or so, hopefully have some announcements of some of these guys moving on. But some of these guys also have a fifth year that they can use, and they can go get their master's degree. And I think what we're going to do as a club is when I have a couple conversations with Frankie. I mean, Frankie from our team, Jokovic. He's one of those ones, that Division I player, and he's got a European passport, and he has some options possibly. And I'm going to give him a buzz after this and just see where he's at. And it's important that we don't just sit there and put them in, and we want to put them on the map and say, oh, look what the Hudson Valley Hammers did. Samori's here,
Right.
Dylan's here, Frankie's here. No, it's not about that. Everyone wants to put out there saying, "Oh, this is what you're going to do." That is about being, the next step in your life. We think that it might be the best to go get your master's degree in this situation, because the pay you're going to get there is not going to be worth it when you get yourself a free master's degree, which then is going to bump you up later. That's what's important. It's not about, at the end of the day, and this is the main thing, we're doing this for is, yeah, there are some that are going to move on and they're going to play. And, maybe we'll be fortunate and get someone to reach the MLS, or USL championship. USL championship would be fantastic, being that we're USL too. But that's not for everyone, so we want to do what's best for that individual, and that's what our goal is.
Well, I think you're again you're way ahead of his year's son, Tyler Adams, when we were putting in the mini pitches over in Poughkeepsie. I think part of his message to everyone in Poughkeepsie was just, you don't have to be a professional soccer player to enjoy the game of soccer. You don't have to be a soccer player to enjoy life. And it's kind of his message to everyone. It's more important to be a good person than it is a good soccer player.
100%. And I think that was echoed in that question we discussed earlier. He took the high road, and I think we need to do that. I think we need to do that more. We need to better each other, and that's what we're trying to do at the Hammers. We're trying to not only make these players better players, but we're making better young men. Better future husbands, future fathers. All of these things we try to do, and that's kind of our goal.
And I'll tell you what, I think you hit on it earlier too about some of these guys. The knowledge of the game sometimes is almost better than their skill set. So for these guys to interact with some of the young players and possibly go on to coach them, the experience they get on this Hammer level is not only going to make them a better person, but it's going to make them a better coach.
1000%. And I think what's important, the day that you sit there and say that, you can't teach me anymore, is the day you hang it up, right? You always got to be wanting to learn, willing to listen to everyone as well. No one's perfect. Eddie and I discussed this a lot last year, as far as the team, and especially with Brian Kennedy help us out. We just feed off each other, and it wasn't like we were being stubborn and say, no, this is my way, this is it. It was always a collective effort, and it was to do the good of the team, the good of the individual, and that's what the game's about, right? I mean, that's what this game's been about. That's why it's the most popular sport in the world.
Well, we're going to get into how to get involved with the Hammers in the next podcast with the general manager, Ray Bramall. But he doesn't know, not Ray, but the next guy doesn't know that I'm going to talk to him about it. We had talked about like all the pieces it takes to get together. And we talked about exposure for the Hammers, and we talked about it. The guy behind this podcast right now, Ed, bring yourself up if you don't mind. Can you bring yourself up on video? So here's a guy retired fireman. He he gets approached last year because Ed and I have done a bunch with local sports and all of this. Ed has probably more equipment and more invested in equipment than you and I will invest in our homes or in our cars. And here he comes, and like you said, it takes a village. It takes a lot of volunteers. It takes a lot. The thank you that we owe to him, because he gets these not just the podcast out, he gets these games out live. He gets these announcers going, and he streams it live, and it's all on his dime. It was all on his dime. So he owns a company, New View Multimedia, and Ed, I got to tell you, talking to Daryl and seeing what we did this year, we just want to make sure that you're recognized as well, because I'll tell you what. The Hammer's exposure doesn't happen. The Drop the Hammer podcast doesn't happen. It's your brainchild. That's what happened there.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, truthfully, it's amazing. You've been absolutely fantastic, and we're looking forward for another season and getting things going. And it was just the feedback that we got from people around the country watching our games. And just these podcasts are it doesn't happen without you, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And next year we're looking at better things.
I enjoy doing it.
Oh, we know you do. We know you do. And
that's it. And that's it. Yeah, we all love doing this. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort, but we're all trying to make things better for everyone in the community.
We are, and I'll tell you this, Daryl and Ed, it has been truly a pleasure to see. It's like watching a child walk for the first time. You're watching them crawl. You're wondering one day when they're going to take that first step. And I think joining in that league, in that USL2 last year, I really think that has put them on their feet, given some other teams a notice that there's some really good soccer that's going to be played with the Hudson Valley Hammers. And I think we're looking forward, because I'll tell you what, I drove past the field the day after Thanksgiving on that Friday, and there were a lot of guys vying for those positions.
Yeah. Word travels fast. We were successful, and hopefully we just keep it going. We'll have some more bumps on the road, but hey, we just bring ourselves together and just get better every day. That's all we can ask for.
Well, Daryl, I got to thank you for your time again. We're going to do next week and the week after. We're going to be talking to you to try to get your son's schedule, because obviously, we want to get Captain America on this as well, because this is his brainchild. This is what he started. And with Tyler behind this, especially after this appearance in the World Cup, I mean, there's nothing for what he showed in the World Cup. There's no one around the Hudson Valley that won't do something for that kid, because he's just made us all proud.
Appreciate that. And I couldn't agree anymore.
All right. So again, on behalf of Ed Diller, our producer, and Matt Lawrence, Daryl, thank you for joining us and taking time out of your schedule. We know, between going back and forth with other kids in Qatar and some sicknesses in the family, we appreciate your time. And again, you're listening to Matt Lawrence with Drop the Hammer for the Hudson Valley Hammers weekly podcast. Thank you for your time, and we're signing out. We'll see you next week with General Manager Ray Bramall.